education, and real-world knowledge about the voiceover industry. It's the Voiceover Gurus Podcast.
I'm recording on my end. How about you?
And I am back and recording on my end.
Excellent. Okay. Welcome back to the Voiceover Gurus Podcast. I'm Linda Bruno, and I was going over a bio that's pretty lengthy a minute ago with a very accomplished young lady. So please say hello to Vanessa James.
Hi there, Linda. How are you?
I'm doing good. So we just connected and I was going through your bio and realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, we have some stuff in common. So first off, your voiceover talent, your voiceover qualities are described as warm and conversational. That's exactly what mine is described as well, except you have a nice depth to yours. I was listening to your demos and I was like, oh, she's got a nice depth to it. That's not something I have, which is good. And we've actually worked for several of the same clients. It's funny, I haven't met somebody who's also worked for VH1. I used to work for VH1, Walmart, Disney, AT&T, and you were a DJ, a radio DJ.
I was for quite some time.
You and me both. And you are in Miami, and I started in Miami.
Amazing. How fantastic. Yes, I am here.
So
I don't think I'm leaving, Linda. I've decided, you know what? If I can travel and have my mic anywhere in the world, my home base is going to be the MIA. So here I am.
Yeah. So tell me where you're from or your family's from.
I'm from the island of Trinidad and Tobago, born there and then raised in the Virgin Islands before my family migrated over to South Florida in the early 80s. And I kind of hopscotched up and down the state, went to school at Florida State University, made my way back down with a little stint in Tampa, Orlando, and then back to South Florida. And my radio roots kind of are all over the state, but specifically in Tallahassee and South Florida in Miami.
Okay, gotcha. And you said Florida State? Okay.
Yep.
So I went to UF.
Okay.
Yeah, right. It's okay. I only was there for 2 years, but yeah, Florida's fantastic. So you've been you're basically a Floridian.
Yeah, I am.
That's what you are. And this is where you're going to stay too. Yeah, Miami's a great market as well. I won't tell you when I was there because I'm a lot older than you. But that's a very cool place to start too. A little bit of nostalgia for me. Yeah. So you have you do a bunch of stuff. I mean, you have a lot of things on your resume. Do you feel that you are first a voiceover artist and then the other elements because you're like TV host and all sorts of things?
Yeah. So for me, it's really, I have my own media company, Vanessa James Media. And within that bag, it's really a mixed bag of media. I lead with VO. I would say that's about 60% of my day to day. And then, I do a lot of event hosting, on-camera hosting, and throw events here in South Florida. So it is a mixed bag of media that leads with VO. And I kind of like that because when the world starts to get crazy, I just get to go in my booth and act and play and try and do, all these different things. So it really kind of, the world can be chaotic and then you come home and you get a script and you're like, okay, back to center.
Back to your, So what do you mean by throw media or throw events? Did you say throw events? Yeah,
I host events here in South Florida. So I do a lot of things celebrating multicultural entrepreneurs, specifically in the Caribbean space. And then I do a Women of Impact dinner highlighting female entrepreneurs. So it's a lot of event hosting and things of that nature. And then I also work with a lot of charities and stuff here too.
Busy.
Yeah.
Hopefully you find some time to just chill, unless that is your chill time is working on events.
Yeah. No. My chill time is sitting on the beach here in Miami, hence why I made it my home.
Very nice. Very, very nice. You've got a lot of avenues that you have traveled down, which is very impressive. Very nice promo package too. Some lovely pictures of you as well.
Thank you.
So what actually got you started did you start in radio and then go into VO, or what was your first?
I did. I started in radio and started in college radio, transitioned to being on the air in the local market there in Tallahassee, and then transitioned to programming, music director, on the air, trying that all out, and discovered, you know what, I really do love being on the air and storytelling. And I feel like even though I'm talking to a million people, they can hear me. If I can talk girlfriend to girlfriend or neighbor to neighbor, and really, creating those connection points that way. And I just discovered, two things. One, I could kind of break my phobia for talking and in public speaking, just doing that on the mic and getting comfortable that way. Now you can't shut me up. Now I talk anytime, anywhere. Give me a mic. I'm ready to go. But yeah, so that's where I got started. I got started in college radio and transitioned down and then that really transitioned from radio, being on the air, to voiceover full time. My station flipped, and I had to make a decision about whether I wanted to jump to another market for a job offer. And I just decided, I have a lot of roots in Miami, and also at that time I was freelancing for a few stations around the country doing their radio imaging. And I'm like, I kind of like this, and I can grow from this, because as we know, this business is really all relationship driven, right? As mixed with talent. So business in terms of business acumen, great relationships, and then that talent is really your secret sauce. But yeah, and I just was able to kind of springboard from there and launch Vanessa James Media so that these people could pay me.
Yeah, very
And that's
nice.
that's kind of my VO journey, how it got started. And then from radio imaging in 2010.
Okay.
2009, 2010, I discovered, wait a minute, okay, this kind of feels like it kind of could go with the promo world. They're kind of like brother, sister to each other, very much billboarding big shows and network shows and things of that nature. So I just then recently in the last 5 years discovered there's a lot of other avenues in voiceover that I like to try. And I am and loving promo. That's probably 60% of my VO work now is promo work, which is like a blessing, and it's super exciting.
Yeah.
And then commercial. So I'm in those three buckets. I'm in radio imaging, commercial, and promo. And that's where I feel like I'm my most, authentic self in terms of, voice acting.
Right, because you work in a lot of different genres.
Yeah.
But those you'd say are your top 3 faves.
Those are my top 3 faves. There's ones I know that I don't love, like I all hail the audiobook VO actors of the world, Linda.
I know.
I love, God bless them. Not necessarily the avenue that I am excited about, just because of the laboriousness of it. Also, I just discovered doing some VOG work and some live announce.
I was going to ask you if you did VOG, because it seems to fit in the same arena.
Yeah. I do. And I love it. I love the thrill of it. I don't love the recuts and all the scripts and all of that. So that's the beauty of our business. It's like you really do get to find what it is you like, and you get to try things, and then you go, you know what? I like that. Or you know what? I'm good with not having that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what's, and I also feel like we're in a really special business, and we're a special community, because if you want to and you continue to work and be a student and practice your craft and polish, you can have a really successful run at this in terms of voiceover. And there can be a lot of longevity in this business for you if you take it seriously and you are malleable with the trends and how things flow in the business,
Totally. And actually, it's kind of good that you and I have met now, because it's so funny, because you're in Miami, and like 3 months ago, I had a brand new client for me, say, hey, we want you to do a VOG, and we're in Miami. And I'm like, well, I'm in New York. So, and they're like, oh, we'd rather have somebody live here. Do you know of anyone? And I was like, I don't, but now I do.
Yeah. And vice versa.
Send them your way. That's
great.
I know that I love promo too. That is one of those avenues that I never even realized it was something I'd be any good at when I started this business. Just kind of fell into it. But yeah, you find those things that you resonate with and you love doing.
It.
And
yeah.
And same, you know what? Audiobook, bless them.
Bless them, Linda.
Some people love it to the point that's all they do, and they pay their mortgage. And you know what? And there's definitely such a craft to it to be really good at it.
Oh, such a craft. Audiobook, narration, explainer. There's such a craft and technical aspect to that. That's a completely different, I feel like, side of the brain than, for instance, like commercial and or like promo. It's just a different side of the brain. It's like a spectrum. So that's what I love about our business. You really are able to dabble and try a lot of different stuff and see where you most flow and gel.
So you just do radio imaging, or do you also do TV imaging too?
Oh no, radio and television imaging, as well as again, promo and commercial. Those are my 3 buckets.
So for folks, because I have a lot of people that are just starting out or thinking about joining, explain what imaging is.
So radio imaging basically is that big voice that you hear that really anchors the station, not the DJs, but the voice that you hear that really sells things up. So we're the ones that are selling up the promos, the contests, the big things happening on the station in terms of, market contests and cash giveaways, things of that nature. radio imagers, I like to describe us really as like the anchors of the station that are on 24 hours a day. So
Mhm.
I voice things, and there's an imaging director that produces them and makes them sound big and worldly, right, for that market. And
Mhm.
then that's kind of what anchors each hour of a radio station's output, their programming. And it really lends itself to be exciting all the time. And again, radio imaging keeps me fresh because there's always a new concert or a new cash giveaway or a new thing happening in town. And I get to do this for 35 plus markets. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's happening in Philly this week. Oh, I should fly up for,
That's
for
awesome.
One Fest or whatever, or
Mhm.
Beyonce or Justin Timberlake's brand new concert. So it gets to keep you on your toes. If you're like in the studio all day and you don't know what's going on in the world, your radio imaging copy will tell you.
Now, are you doing any stations in another language? Are they
Um,
all English?
They're all English. I do some slight island dialect in the islands in St. Croix, USVI, as well as in Trinidad and Barbados. And then I do some light work in Spanish, but it's very conversational. Not necessarily, it's very conversational, kind of thrown into the mix, and there's sweepers and things of that nature. But I lead it English.
Okay, gotcha. But then you also have that advantage of being able to, do the other languages, which
Yeah,
opens you up to a whole plethora
yeah,
of different
exactly.
opportunities. So do you have a inspiration, someone that inspired you to even start any of this?
You know what? Doug Turkel, and he's a mentor of mine, the unannouncer, and he's
I
the
know,
one I
Doug,
think
yes.
years ago, before it was cool and everybody was doing conversational, he was leading the charge on really being someone that could just deliver really off the cuff, chill,
Mm,
relaxed, lower shoulder reads, which is now called conversational. Can you just, like relax and act like you're talking to me? Not
yeah.
like so he was actually on the sister station I was on in the same group. At that time it was Clear Channel here in Miami, and he used to pull me in his studio all the time and say, hey V, I love your voice, can you read this script and I just was like, what is this for? And he's like, oh, it's for this brand new car dealership or whatever was popping up, and he'd be like, send me an invoice for that, those 2 lines. I'm like, okay, $150 for 3 minutes of work, sure, okay,
Yes,
here.
please.
Yeah. So but he kind of got me into this flow, and he'd go, he would tell me over and over, when someone tells you and you don't really take it seriously, he
Yeah.
goes, you really should consider taking voiceover and radio imaging more seriously. You're really good at this. And I didn't realize it at the time. And he kept telling me. And then finally, he invited me to this workshop that they were having in South Florida. And I went and got to meet some of the other, big wigs in the game at the time, Pat Garrett and Rick Party, who were also in the market, Dave Ferguson, Big Dr. Dave. He's like on all the and I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah. They would always tell me, submit your stuff. If you've got a lot of programming, relationships, submit your stuff to those program directors, because they're always looking for females to bounce off that big male voice. And I'm like, okay.
Sure.
And I put a demo together and I just started taking it seriously. And that was 2009, 2010.
Wow.
And then I'm like, okay, yeah, I could do this.
I know Doug. Actually, I was only in Miami for a few years. I was in Florida for 12 years.
Okay.
But then I moved to New York in 97. But he he and I both were the promo voices for HSN.
Oh,
So I was the female and he was the male. And I was at
oh,
the network for like 7 years. He was longer than me.
oh,
And here's the odder thing. I went to Miami Country Day School,
okay.
which is in
Uh-huh.
like North Miami.
Yeah.
My graduating class is like 28 people. He went to Miami Country Day. It's
Oh,
a
wow.
small
Small
private
world.
school. So it was just so crazy. And I think he also worked with my mentor, Connie Zimmett. Did you know Connie Zimmett?
I not personally, but yes, I've
You
heard
know of her.
amazing. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely know of her.
Yeah, she's the one that got me into voiceover.
Amazing.
So it's such a cool like world,
Yeah.
because you're like, wait a minute, I know Doug, because and you know him anyway, I just love
Yeah.
that because it
Yeah.
seems like a big world, but it really isn't because a
It
lot of
really
people know
isn't.
each other,
And
especially
if I
Miami.
exactly, if I could say this one thing too, for people that are listening to your podcast that may be thinking about getting into VO, the one thing I love about it, especially now, 15 years in this business of entertainment, I've got a chance to dabble into lots of different realms of entertainment. So corporate radio, right? Being on the air, and also behind the scenes as a program director, and also editorial work, and also television work, being on, as a on-camera host and producer. I say the one thing I notice about all those different styles of media, they all have their things that really make them special. But man, if I could compare them to voiceover, I have to say, I mean, we really are a community that really roots for each other. You know how they always talk about how like entertainment is so cutthroat and all of that? I don't feel that way in VO, and that's been so refreshing. What do I mean by that? I mean, like, you can really find your tribe here in this community, and you can really rock out with your tribe, grow, learn, and make money together. Because if I know, like, Linda's got her thing, her niche, her way of doing things and delivering things. And at the end of the day, this is a very subjective industry that we're in, a casting director and producer on the other end, and we send something. There's something about Linda's voice, or there's something about the way that Vanessa delivered that we really like. And all of a sudden, okay, she gets booked for this. And then you develop your relationships from there. But what I'm trying to say is, the reason I think that we're a community of like collective cheerleaders, let's say, is because I know how much work is going in when you book something.
Yeah.
I know how much work and how much preparations of the script, how crazy your sessions can be, all of that. So it's like when my colleagues book stuff, I genuinely am so excited, sharing it on social, all the things, because I know how much work it is. You know what I'm saying? In the day-to-day of what we do, that I think that people don't realize. But that's the one thing I really have been able to find my community here, and we really genuinely cheer each other on, and it's really refreshing. It really is.
I've said this in the past too, that I think it's because we're all sharing those same difficult experiences of continually auditioning, being professional auditioners, feeling rejection, maybe not getting feedback, and wondering, did something change? Am I still good enough? Or maybe have never been good enough, all the questioning and the self-doubt. So it's almost like we've all been in battle together, know? So it's like, you're cool with it. I'm happy when somebody I know booked something fantastic.
Yeah. I love that though, Linda. Professional auditioners.
Yep. That's what we are. So, and it's important to tell people, because a lot of them, especially if they get on these TikTok videos and watch these people go, I booked a job in one day. And it's like, but you're not.
Yeah, but how much training, how many workshops, how much studio, tweaking all went into that. It's like, that's overnight success with 20 years or 10 years in of actually like fine tuning.
Yeah, it's true. But the community aspect is good. It was also online. If you have questions or you just starting out, there's a sea of people that can help you, give you their 2 cents. Sometimes it's a little too much information that I think overwhelms people. But it's there,
but they're willing to. And that's what I find that other industries, maybe not so much. This one, like, they're genuinely willing to help you. If hey, do you have 15 minutes? Okay, yeah, I can make 15 minutes for you. I see. Oh my, because when I was starting out, I remember I booked at that time for me, a huge Walmart gig. It was a big deal, and I was so nervous. And I called a colleague of mine at the time, and I'm like, hey, I saw that you just did that Popeyes campaign. Can you help me? And she was like, yeah, I'll help you. Tell me what you need. Okay, here's how you prepare for your session. Here's things not to worry about. Here's things that might come your way, that all of that type stuff. And now I'm like, oh, booked it. Let's go. But it took a while to get out of my head. And a lot of VO is getting out of your head and just having fun with the copy, and then realizing, which is what Joe Cipriano taught me. If you book the job, you already booked the job. So don't worry about being nervous. They like you already, that you booked it. There was something special about what you sent them, that you booked it. So now just have fun and own the copy and make it your own, and don't worry about making mistakes. It's okay. We're human. And I think that kind of mental shift has really, really helped me along in my career, and just not worrying. Even on my promo sessions, like if I mess up, just keep it rolling. And then I'm like, and now I tell them, hey, if for whatever reason I fumble a line, I'm just going to give you that line again, so you have that second backup take in case that one flowed better for you. And 9 times out of 10, they're like, hey, V, thanks for take number 2. We loved it. Fit right in. Perfect.
No, great points. When you audition, do you try to give alternates in your auditions, or do you
always
focus on so how many do you give? Like 2, 3?
Well, it really depends, right? Because with an audition, you have to make sure you're paying attention to the direction that they're giving you, the casting director, the agent that's sending you the audition, right? A lot of times auditioning really is about reading. Half the battle is reading what they want and trying to interpret that. But like if they say 2 takes, no slate, no bumps, no ups, just two clean takes, what I do is I've gotten to a point in my career where I'm trying not to overthink copy too long. So if it's a really, really, really big gig that I want, before I'd marinate on it and give it a couple takes and then before sending it, listen to it. Now I'm like, okay, let me take the time to read what the direction is, a warm conversational, a lot of times I'll give you real specifics about what it is that they're looking for. We're looking for a voice that sounds like she's 25 to 40 and it's girlfriend to girlfriend and she had a really long day and she's venting, right? So like pay attention to the copy. I always do. Make sure I'm paying attention to the copy and pay attention to the direction. I give that a two-time pass. I think about what that delivery sounds like in my head. I crack the mic. I read what that delivery sounds like in my head. Girlfriend to girlfriend, Linda to Linda. Oh my gosh, I had the longest day, type. And then I give it what it is I think that is interpreted. I go back and I listen to it. And I say to myself, would I book me? I clean it up, make sure it's nice and tight. Would I book me? Are the mechanics there? Meaning nice, clean takes without any, muffle or fuffles, making sure everything's nice and clean and vibrant, all that stuff. Not over compressed with all of our bells and whistles we like to put on there either. Right. And 9 times out of 10, I either don't book it, or if I don't book it, I get good feedback from my agent. But either way, like I got out of marinating too long on things. I just had a recent campaign for Genesis Motors that came down, and it was like my agent was like, oh my God, this is a really big 1B and da-da-da-da. Well, I happen to know personally the person that was doing the booking. I didn't book the job, but they were like, it's really high stakes and, we really, really, really want you to do a good job here. And I think I didn't book it because I let them get in my head. They were like, well, you have to speak to casting, and casting wants to speak to you first before. And then casting wants to read with you on, and I've never had that happen, like wants to read with you on the phone before. And so all of that, what I really needed to do was, before I did any of that, get the actual reads and just marinate on them and read them the way I felt that I was interpreting what they were asking. Before I sent it, have that conversation with casting and then make sure that it matched. But long story short, at the end of the day, now I know for next time how to better handle those type of situations, because voiceover, so much of it is 50% of it is handling all of the audibles they throw at you, honey. Linda.
There's so much. Honestly, I go by feel, and I know maybe that sounds kind of corny, but
no.
I go by feel, and but I've been doing this a long time. So I get it. When you're starting out, it's difficult to not have that confidence, but I try to feel it. I listen back. Like you say, you listen back. Would you hire yourself? For me, I ask, do I believe myself?
Yeah.
Did I connect? Do I sound connected to the copy? Do I sound legitimate, or do I just sound like I'm mailing it in? The other day, I listened back. I'm like, oh my God, I'm just
mailing it in.
And so you have to check yourself and go back and say, let me redo this and let me put my heart and soul into it, because it does take effort, so
effort.
It's effort to truly connect and to, do the copy comprehension, figure out, hopefully, if most of us don't know what's in their head.
Yeah.
And then you see it on TV and you're like, wait a minute, that's not the direction at all that was in this.
No. Oh, well, let's talk about that. You're like, wait a minute. Okay, I'm so happy for who booked that, but that's totally a different direction that was in your copy. So again, that also goes to show that a lot of times people that are casting these roles are also not necessarily that they're just winging it, but they don't necessarily know what it is they want till they hear it too. So that's why it's important to be true to yourself as well.
And not beat yourself up too.
Yeah.
They don't know.
They don't know.
They don't know until they hear it.
They don't know until they hear it.
I know.
They don't.
I was telling this story to someone earlier today that, and I probably told this a bunch of times in the podcast. I apologize to everybody. So back years and years and years ago, I first moved to New York in 97 and I went on an audition for like Pond's. You remember like Pond's
Of
hand
course.
cream stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. And the producers were like, oh, shave a second here, shave a second there. Oh my God, this whole thing. And I get so excited, right? And I'm brand new. I'm only maybe here a year, 2 years. And I walk out of there and I call my agent. I'm like, oh my God, I totally got this.
Yeah.
They had it. They had me, tweaking this and that. So of course I see the commercial the following week with another girl who sounds
Okay.
similar to me, but it's
Okay.
not me.
Okay.
And I call my agent and I'm like, what happened? I don't understand, the whole thing.
The whole thing.
He's like, look, the producer, whoever was making the decision, could have been biting into a hamburger that had a pickle on it, and he didn't like it when he heard your voice. He goes, that's what this comes down to. And I was like, holy crap.
Yep.
This is what I have to keep in mind, that it really doesn't have to do with me.
No.
All we can do, excuse me, is become the best performer that we can.
Yeah.
True to our talent. And you go in there and you feel good about your audition.
Yeah.
And then let it go.
Yeah. I just recently auditioned and I was like so wanting this Paramount Plus opportunity. I remember it was for Paramount Plus and I'm like, ooh, this is like right up my alley, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, okay, I'm gonna like own this. So I do those takes and I wait, I marinate on this one. I listen back, Linda, and I'm like, okay, Linda,
Hard not to.
would I book me? Okay, do I believe me? Like you said, and I go, yeah. These sound really good. I send it over to my agent. She's like, damn, girl, these sound good. I'm like, you know what? I know. But it was like, okay, V, humble yourself moment because you still didn't book it.
Yeah, you don't know.
So, but who they booked was a very good colleague of mine, Marie Westbrook, and she rocked that copy. Just the small little tweaks that she made, she rocked that copy. So again, it only forces you to do two things: level up and put some more work in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you felt good about your audition, though.
I felt so good about my audition. I'm like, that's good.
And that's so good.
I felt so good about my audition that I kept it for like a future demo because I'm like, this is good enough for a demo.
Mm-hmm,
you know?
I like to also think of the fact that I still feel like there's a bit of success if I got a callback.
Yeah.
If I got shortlisted for something. I mean,
absolutely.
I may not have booked the final gig, but my God, I was a contender,
Yeah, we're in it, Linda.
Yeah, and that's the whole trying to explain that to students that they're like, oh, but I keep getting shortlisted. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That is another form of approval without the final decision being made.
And also, like, a great tip for people who do get shortlisted a lot is if there is room, sometimes there is and sometimes there isn't. Shoot your agent or whoever sent you that note and say, hey, thank you so much for the opportunity. And I'm so excited that I did get shortlisted for this. Although I didn't book it, can you share any feedback on maybe ways I can improve next time? Maybe you get an email back. Maybe they're like, whatever, we just went with a different whatever. But you never know. Sometimes they do give little notes about ways that you can improve. Yeah.
That's a good tip. That's a good tip. I know it's kind of a shot in the dark sometimes, but yeah, if you can get any kind of feedback to help you on your next, audition, then.
Yeah, especially in that same style, right? Like if you're doing promo and it's like dark ID channel, thriller stuff and you didn't book it, but you got shortlisted, you're like, okay, I would love to get some feedback from that casting director about what I could do better next time, that type of thing. If it's like really niche and specific, ask. You never know.
I was gonna say, what's the frequency you think of getting the feedback? Like if you do ask, what's your return on that?
Probably not high. Probably not high. I'm not going to lie. Just because that agent's super busy. But like my agents, I have great relationships with them. So for me, I remember I asked my agent, Heather, who's very busy. She's our promo agent out of LA and she's very busy. And I was like, hey, really, really thought this was a great audition, but didn't book it. Any feedback you could share? And she goes, you know what? I just felt like you were really tight on the mic. And I think that could be a reason. She still submitted me and I obviously got shortlisted, but she goes, maybe have an audio studio check to see if you can refine just the way things are physically coming out of the mic. And I realized that maybe I was too tight on it. I needed a little bit more space. So it's like little small things like that. Yeah.
That you wouldn't have known unless you'd asked.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, they say that 60% of auditions get tossed out because of the sound of the studio.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah. Your studio is not a game. Like you got to make sure. I have a girlfriend who's in TV that's wanting to cross over into VO and she was like, oh, I'm good. I've got my closet here and my Yeti. And I'm like, hold on. What? my closet and my Yeti and a blanket. I'm like, girlfriend, I love you, but no, we're going to need to like book a George the Tech session.
And level
right?
up.
And level up. If you really want to take this seriously, you at least have to have the bare bones of equipment to really get you there, because you are auditioning with people that take this seriously and have invested in this, and their studios sound like butter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you have
know?
you have to up your game to even be, in the running.
Absolutely.
For any of this, which is the same argument for
no diss to Yeti, Linda. I'm just saying.
Oh, I get you. I think people that are unfamiliar get pulled in with that. Oh, it looks so cool. And I mean, I guess it's good for podcasting. I'm not sure.
It is. Apparently it's great for podcasting, but for directional, like, big voice promo, maybe not so much.
Yeah. So what mic do you use?
I am on the Sennheiser 416.
Yay.
I love it. It's my boo. His name is Maxwell. Him and I have a great relationship. We work well together whenever, I realize the style of voiceover that I'm doing, a directional mic really works best for me versus like a Neumann. That's more, broad, capturing every spit intake of my voice and cheek muscle moving.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically, but I was actually booking work on my Rode NT5 for quite some time that George the Tech recommended for me. It's that same directional shotgun mic, and I just upgraded it a few years ago. And again, it's night and day. But again, if you have an audio engineer that can help you customize whatever mic you do have with the room and the sound that you have, because it's a lot of times it's the acoustics. It's making sure that again the entire package sounds of quality. I always ask myself, I always tell the people that I mentor, is this good enough to be on the air? Could a casting director take this and put this on TV or put this on the radio? You've got to be able to say yes.
Yeah, that's a valid question for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've had my Sennheiser for years. I love it.
You love it, right?
I do. I have my first microphone was an Audio-Technica 4033. And
classic.
Yeah, right. And I have it in my other booth where my students go.
Okay.
And you're talking, I probably bought this mic like maybe 97.
Oh, wow.
And it still works beautifully.
Yeah.
And still sounds great too,
So why are you married to the 416 now though?
Well, because the majority of my work for like at least 15 to 18 years was promo, TV promo.
Yeah.
So to stay in it, and I just learned how to use it so I could use it for everything.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge long form narration person. I love quick bang, I love automotive, I love commercials, I love and promo was my baby, so I did 14 years with Disney Junior. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, for Southeast Asia, 14 years. That audition process was 6 weeks long. So talk about
honey, congratulations on the 14-year run, Linda.
I know. Who gets
amazing. Girlfriend.
They got rid of the network when everything started.
Let's take a moment and just have a moment, because honey, that just made my whole heart smile for you.
I'm telling you, it was a gift. It was a gift that it was that long. And a friend of mine who's a huge Disney fanatic, she's like, why don't you go be the voice of a ride or something?
Oh, just go be.
I'm like, look, 14 years, I'm good. I'm happy. It was wonderful.
That's a good run. Yeah.
But you're talking a 6-week audition process for that. That it was but that was my first time where I said, I've loved Disney since I was a kid. It was like a dream client. I'm literally going to throw this away. I'm not going to think about it because I'm going to make myself crazy.
Yeah.
And that was one of those that thankfully, successfully, I was able to do that. I can't say I'm successful with some of the other auditions that I've had that have been good ones. But so the Sennheiser, I had a focus. One of my best friends is a big promo guy, Brian Lee. Mm-hmm. And he was always like, Lynn, got to get the Sennheiser 416.
Yeah, you just got to get it. $1,000, you just got to get it.
I was like, I'm going to do it.
It's the best $1,000 I've ever spent. Okay.
I actually got it on eBay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, gently used. And I think I paid $900 for it, and I've had it for 10 years. So. Okay.
I love it.
So now tell me, I know you do these events and you host these dinners, and I'm looking here, Women of Impact dinner. Tell me about that.
So Listen, as you could tell, and just us chatting today, there's a lot of women that are not just in media and just in voiceover, but that are in different, aspects of just entrepreneurship here in my market in South Florida. And I work with a lot of brands too. And so this is at that time was a partnership with Cadillac. And they were like, hey, we're thinking about coming into the market to do something to highlight some of the female entrepreneurs in the market. Could you help us put that together? And I'm like, okay, sure. You provide a list and we'll, help you curate it. And I just realized, wait a minute, I can collaborate with a brand. They're going to pay for this. And we can celebrate, females that are like leading in the arts and in education and stuff like that in South Florida. And that's how VJMedia Women of Impact started in 2013.
Wow.
Grown woman.
Wow.
And so, yeah, but it's just an amazing opportunity to get together with other like-minded entrepreneurs here in South Florida who are running businesses, who are running nonprofits, who are really, really, really just trying to own those type of spaces and lend their talents and their voices and all of their attributes to other women. And it's just our annual dinner that we do here in South Florida, my company, to honor them. And it's something that every time we walk away, it's just like the most, you could have the craziest, wildest year and you just bring women together and we all can draw from each other. And it's just awesome. I haven't done it in 3 years, obviously with the pandemic, and it's back this fall. So I'm very excited. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah.
Where do you do it?
I do it at different venues here in South Florida, typically like a restaurant in like their private spaces. So yeah. Yeah.
That's a great way. And now everybody's back to connecting in person.
Everybody's ready to be outside again. Yes, we're outside. We're seeing each other in person again. It's wonderful. It's good.
So your background, having that wonderful Caribbean, I just got married in Jamaica last year.
Oh, nice.
So I know that was my little heart goes to the Caribbean. What do you think are your greatest challenges you've faced in your career? Have you had anything that's hit you that you're like, wow, this is tough?
If I'm being really honest, and it definitely seems like the Voiceover Gurus is a place where we can just be honest about career and all of that.
Yes.
I would just have to say two things. One, learning how to adapt to American English, let's say, because although in Trinidad we speak English and in the USVI, it's an English territory, it's with an accent. And so I developed a stutter.
Oh,
actually, yes, just from nerves in elementary school when I moved up here, and I would be terrified of speaking in class. And so that stutter followed me all the way to college. It wasn't like a big one. It just would be when I would get in front of places where I'd be nervous. I'd stutter and a sweat.
Wow.
All of a sudden profusely start sweating. But long story short, that's something that I had to break, and I had to have some speech therapy, but also just like get that confidence that I could do, I could break that. And radio actually helped me just break that. Steve King was the first program director I ever worked with that put me on the air. He's like, you had a great voice. And this is when I was a receptionist in Tallahassee in the market. I started off as a receptionist. And he's like, I'm going to put you on air. I'm like, okay. He's like, 2 a.m. Is that cool for you? I was like, okay, great. But it was the best. I cannot thank Steve King enough. It was the best opportunity because I was able to make all my mistakes and I broke my stutter, like talking to people and learning how to use it. And from that was like, okay, now we want you to host an event. It's going to be 2,000 people at this homecoming for fam, and again, it just helped me grow my confidence and all of that. But I would say that. And then also in getting into the programming end of radio and entertainment, obviously it comes with a lot of bureaucracy, red tape, and stuff like that. So I think that too, and understanding it's very much a business first. Yeah. That's really what led me to entrepreneurship, because I was like, I'm making an impact, but that impact has has a ceiling because of other people's lack of vision, So at the end of the day, I realized, okay, this is an opportunity for me to go on my own and work with these radio stations in a different capacity where I could kind of lead the charge on my own, and then they could run their radio stations. And we just work really well together that way versus the programming where, you have one objective, and that comes from a corporate up, in a major market, and they're like, this is the way that we want things to go, and I'm like, wait, but what about no, this is the way we want things to go. Okay, You know how that is.
Right.
So it worked because it taught me a lot of the professional end of things, and I created incredible relationships with the program directors and things of that nature. But I also understood about all the bureaucracy, especially for women in the business, because at that time I was one of 5 female program directors, and at
Wow.
that time, Clear Channel.
Wow.
So yeah, so it
It's
taught
very
me a lot.
much the sink or swim mentality that you
Yeah.
get thrown in. My first program director in New York, it was my very first shift. I was so nervous. This is here on Long Island.
Yeah.
And it was at night over like July 4th weekend. So it was one of
Okay.
these shifts. And he's like, okay, we're doing a live remote. You're going to be bringing in calls. We have a contest going. Good luck. And I
All
said
the
to him,
things.
I'm like, what? And I said, are you kidding me? It's my first shift. He goes, Linda, I believe you're either going to sink or swim.
Or swim.
And
And
he
that's
goes,
it.
I believe you're going to swim. Have a good night. And he
Oh,
took off.
what?
I
Have
was
a good
going,
night.
yeah,
Oh
see
my
you later.
gosh.
I'll talk to you during the
Oh
remote.
my gosh.
And my little secret was to take things in 5-minute increments.
Yeah.
And I would say, okay, I'm starting this song. I have 5 minutes. What's
Yep.
the next thing? And I would just go piece by
Break it
piece
up.
because I
Yeah.
couldn't but you know what? It's true. You have to be thrown into it.
Yeah.
And then you find your strength,
You do.
you know?
You do.
And
You also find your boundaries. Okay, this is great, but I'm also not willing to tolerate this. So let me find my exit too. Like, you get to also decide in our business, like, is this for me? You know? And as much as I love radio and I absolutely love connecting with people, I realized it was the people I
Yeah.
was excited about connecting more so than the mechanics and all the stuff behind the scenes. And so I think you get to find yourself in that space too. Radio is my foundation. I am so grateful for it because I learned so much about the business, but I also learned so much about myself, you know?
What year did you start radio?
Ooh, are we going to go back that far, Linda? I started radio in 2003. Yeah, 2003.
Okay. So, and now, because we're talking about really honest issues, did you
Yeah.
ever deal with any sexual harassment?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially at that time when the entire staff was male except me and like one other radio DJ. So absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of harassment, a lot of catcalling, a lot of that stuff. A lot of, I'm going to wear loose clothes today.
Yeah.
You know, all the things that you don't necessarily think you have to think about, but you do. Yeah.
Right. Because when you're starting a radio, I was an intern when I started, and this was like
Yeah.
94. I didn't know anything. And then back then, everybody was like, oh, yeah, we can sexually harass women. It's no big
Oh,
deal.
yeah.
Nobody
200%.
said anything about it. Nobody, but it was.
And there were no
part.
repercussions really for the men.
Right. Right. My boss happened to be, because I worked in the business office, she happened to be female, and she saw the van driver, well, here's a whole other story, talking inappropriately to me. And she called him out on it. And then for the next year, he gave me such
Of
shit
course.
because he thought that I went and reported him, and he made my life like miserable. I didn't leave because of him.
No.
It's absolutely awful. You just have, it's absolutely awful to have to actually deal with that. But at the time, you don't know any better.
Yeah.
You know
think you have
something's
to.
wrong, but
Yeah. Yeah. And we have to be honest. A lot of times when we did speak up during those times, then we did not have advocates like your boss. A lot of times we get let go. Oh, she's too difficult. Oh, no, she's just calling you out for your behavior. So
I had someone out because I'm Hispanic. One of my bosses, female, because I was working for 3 radio stations, and I was leaving because I wanted to be a jock and they wouldn't put me on the air. So I went to another station, and she got so upset with me, and she goes, You're my EEO. You can't leave.
Okay.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't at the time. I was like, what is going on here? Not really. Now I look back on it, I'm like, oh my God, the stuff that folks said.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a cold reality.
Yeah. Cold reality about just corporate life in general, because it doesn't even have to be in entertainment and radio, but just the things that people have to do with and the things that women feel like they have to tolerate. And I realize you don't really have to tolerate this.
No.
So.
No. And you have, as an entrepreneur, you have the control.
I love it.
Take the reins and you do what it is that makes you happy and brings you fulfillment.
Yeah. And you get to say, hey, you know what? I'll tackle this tomorrow. Please don't email me at 2 a.m. again.
Yeah, I don't reply.
We're not curing cancer. Your copy's going to be there right in the morning, and I promise you I'll get that concert promo right over to you.
Yeah, you have some immediacy in the stuff that you're
Yeah,
doing.
exactly.
This is wonderful to have you on, Vanessa James. Thank you so much for sharing your story and
Thank you.
your career. And so interesting to hear the path and what you love and what inspires you and what brings you passion. And you're obviously extremely talented. I was listening to some of your demos. They're very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I wish you all the luck in the world.
Thank you so much. And I can't wait to, check your stuff out. And I'm sure I'm going to be fangirling. So sorry if I stalk you after this.
I'm old, Vanessa. I'm old. I'm 53,
I want to go hear some of that HSN stuff.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. There's a bunch of that on there.
Oh man,
I can't. Unfortunately, the Disney, they wouldn't let me post anything.
Of course. Oh, that's
so infuriating. And then they took down everything. One of the producers was like, "Well, if you find it on YouTube, you can post it, but it can't because I gave it to you." So I would post that, and then they got rid of everything. So I could just be lying and go, "Yeah, I did that."
Yeah, I did this. Oh no. Well, I'm sure a lot more incredible opportunities are on your way because your voice is amazing.
We have similar vocal qualities. So, you compliment me, compliment yourself. I compliment you. I compliment myself.
There you go.
Anyway, thanks for coming on the show. That wraps it up for
course.
another episode of the Voiceover Gurus podcast. Check out our website at voiceover.guru. You want to get training with us. As you know, by listening to the podcast, we are as real as it gets. We talk about all the downfalls, the pitfalls, the successes, the frustrations, the lack of money, or the booming finances, and it's all the real deal. So voiceover.guru, thanks everybody for joining us and have a great day. Awesome, girl.
Awesome, Chica. You're welcome. All right,
Thanks for listening to the Voiceover Gurus Podcast. Real talk about the voiceover industry. Learn more about us and get coaching at voiceover.guru.